I'm doing well, and let's get the whole thing cranked up. I thought, kind of looking back on yesterday, it was a fun game to coach in, and not based on the outcome. That was absolutely a blast to have it at the end. But what made it good was, the challenge that goes with it. And I thought, these guys really did not flinch, and so there were some, things to overcome and adversity to do in this game. And I certainly think, as we got into the second half, that the guys really showed that. They were not going to flinch, and knowing that we had to make the adjustments that we need to make, and we solved those problems together. And I thought when the game got the hardest, we played our toughest, in the fourth quarter where it was needed the most. And so I thought those were the things that made this game a fun one to coach in, that we had to adjust, go through some new things to do that. And this defense is good at doing that. And every game plan doesn't survive first contact. This changes, and you have to be adaptable. And this defense certainly is. So it wasn't an easy one in a lot of respects. And but I do really appreciate those guys adjusting and finding the things that we need to do to get it right, certainly at the end.
David Moore, Dallas Morning News. How did Joseph hold up yesterday in his extended look, and just going forward with him, what did he show you yesterday?
Yeah, I really anticipated him tackling well, and to be right, square on the line and being in front. He plays with very good strength, especially outside. And I thought, the good third down stop that he had in the second half, I thought that was probably the highlight, that I saw in the game. It was really strong, aggressive play. So, I'm encouraged by what we saw in the first, look at it.
Completely different guy, but Leighton Vander Esch seemed to be just all over.
Yeah, wasn't that an excellent game by him? I was just so impressed by him. Battling through some sickness early to go and play, but he was just on it. And you can tell at the end when somebody has totally emptied their tank, and that was Leighton in this game. There's blood coming off the lip. He's gassed, and just, one of those games where, like, I gave everything I had. But I thought the tackling for him was on point. It wasn't our best tackling game, but from his standpoint, I thought it certainly was one of his better tackling games. And I got to give a lot of, credit to Pierce. I thought, in the run game leading up into this game, I thought he really plays with good strength, and that was really one of the focal points for us, knowing going into this game, we had to get low, we had to finish on the tackles, and I thought the guys did a good job on that.
Glenn, so before we start talking, how much did the two-quarterback system keep y'all off balance a little bit? I don't know if y'all expect that coming into the game.
No, we didn't expect it, and so I would say it I don't know if it was as much the two quarterbacks as much as, hey, sometimes no wide receivers and different formations to go through. And so I would say that part, was different. And so taking some time to figure out how do we want to set the call, who's the wide receiver, if we want to attach one, if we want to play some man-to-man or do some pressures with that. And so once we were able to do that, and that was a good call by them, some unscouted looks of things that not only they hadn't shown before, but hadn't shown it all, this year, and certainly not with Jeff. So heading into it wasn't something that we had prepared for. But fortunately, as you get to this time of year, you've seen, a number of different looks, and that's kind of why I liked this game. Had to make some adjustments on the fly. Certainly don't like how we gave up some points in the first half. Certainly on a short field where that's best for us to go, hey man, put it out. At the worst, that has to go down to a field goal. But back to your questions, the two platoon system, as much, I would say, as much as that is even how they featured the players. And I like that kind of challenge. I like that chess match to go back and find out how to go. And so that's why this game was a fun one to coach in.
Dan, Todd Archer with ESPN. Does DeMarcus Lawrence have a sense of timing of when a big play is needed?
I'd say, yeah, I've definitely noticed. Trust me, I think we had said that early in the year. People might not know some things outside our building, but we certainly do. And down on that goal line, man, he is something, and I thought there was a screen that he came just flying around to go, but that's, to me, where he's at his best, when he has good instincts to know when to go take my shot, Todd, and that's the one when he does make those moments to go get him, especially in the run game. There's usually a big play involved with that, just the violence that he hits with, the big plays that he can make. But I thought he and Anthony and Neville down on the goal line, those were some big stops, as it went. I thought Carlos Watkins, to chase somebody down to create the 3rd-and-1 play down on the goal line. If he doesn't, haul ass and go try to get in on the stop, the guy gets in. So kind of goes back to you never know when that play is going to happen. You just got to go bust your ass. And then, if you get a chance to make a play, the next one happens, and sure enough, that was the case in this game.
As you've lost guys from Jordan to Anthony Brown and things, have you been able to keep it this package the same, if you had to pare down?
That's a good question. I would say we haven't had to pare down, and really the purpose behind that, Todd, is because of the people that have been in the system. We really try to raise the floor and say, hey, this is the standard, as opposed to going, hey, we're going to take this out and so you can feel comfortable. We really tried to push it to where we could get to that space to say, this is how we play and this is what we do. Now, what does change, Todd, sometimes is when a player adds in, he might be here just for the week or for 2 weeks where he's just getting started. In that case, you keep some calls in for a player to say, hey, when you're in, these are the ones that we're going to go to. I think that's fair. But in this case, with guys stepping up into those spaces with Duran and with Kelvin, we certainly expect, that standard to be met, but we don't change much on the package as that goes. So it kind of depends on how long you've been in the system.
How big of a loss is Hankins for you guys?
That I haven't spoken with Mike yet directly on that in terms of where he's at, but John is really square and stout inside, and I've been pleased with what I've seen from the defensive tackles over the last few weeks in the run game, making sure they're square and strong. So if we do end up missing any time with him, that'll be an important piece for us to stay really consistent with, Todd. That's been part of our game that has improved. As you know, I was talked previously, jet sweeps and crack tosses and the things that the guys have worked hard on to improve in that spot. And the interior of the defense, certainly in the run game, is one that has been trending in the right direction. So no matter what, that has to continue. But if we do lose him for some time, he would be one that's missed. He's square and really strong inside.
You think Bohannon has learned something?
I do, and I thought,
Watching him?
yes, and I like what Hank brings to the table in that space. Hey, pad level here, sure. He's able to give a guy like Bo some insight that goes along with that. And I've also seen Gallimore improve and be more consistent inside. So, but I really felt Bohanna yesterday. It was a TFL. There's some good movement for him. So I felt that strength by him. And so that was a good sign for me.
Calvin Watkins, Dallas Morning News. Obviously, all the corners play, but your thoughts on why you started Bland over Joseph and that kind of thing?
Yeah, and really heading into the game, it was going to be, basically by package how we'd like to utilize the guys to go about it. And it just worked out in this game based on how they played, that they did a lot more big packages than the other way. And so that's something that we've done before with Bland. So that's how we started in that way. But it was certainly just really by game plan. And this game called for bigger groups than not.
I don't know how much you've seen him already, but your thoughts on Lawrence this weekend in Jacksonville?
Well, I know he had a monster game just yesterday, and when you look at some of the people they have, they've got an exceptional skill group. They got runners that can catch it out of the backfield and have really good speed, and certainly we know who Kirk is, and tight end for Ingram. And so when you add guys like that and Zay Jones and others to the mix, you have a pretty good sense of what their speed is at the perimeter. And certainly going back to Trev, he's got ability to throw it on the run and can just make really accurate plays, when he's extending plays or by design. And so those are some of the things that jump out to me about how effective he is on the move, certainly from his time all the way back, through his college days. And it's certainly showing up on this tape as well.
Scotty Dixon with the AP. You've been a head coach in this league. You're in a game. Everybody thinks you're supposed to win. How much of a lift is it when you get a game-changing sequence from one side of the ball and then the other right there at the end at the same time, basically?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a lift. And the reason I say that is you want to make sure, and then why I brought it up earlier, why I like that our guys didn't flinch. You want to make sure when the moment comes to deliver that you're able to do that. And it just so happened in this instance, I can remember years ago, it happened another time, when that sequence of a stop happens, there's a big momentum shift that can go, but you're only halfway there. And so by the offense taking that and going all the way down to score, it really completed that entire circle of what, complementary football could look like. So I do think that it gives a lift. to know that it doesn't always go like you want it to in a fight, but you stay the course, you're not out of the fight, and you just keep going. And then eventually when the big play happens and you have a window or a moment or they put a crack into it, you got to go attack and take it. And I think that was a pretty good example there on those final sequences.
Brad Sham, Cowboys Radio. How's McKinley looked since you signed him, Dan?
You know, I thought one of the things, well, you guys don't know just from, not being around him, but he is really fit and really strong. And so I thought he put so much into the rehab, coming back from his Achilles. He really changed his body at the same time to do that. And so if called upon, we certainly feel like he's been with us now for enough time to be ready to go if called upon. And so that's what we were aiming towards with him. But he had been really a good addition. We had challenged him and McKenzie and Kendall to say, you know when your moment is coming, but it is likely coming. And so having the stress to put on those guys, as I was referring to earlier with Todd, to not have to change the system, but literally raise the floor. This is the standard, and the standard's the minimum. And if we can get them to that spot, those three I spoke about specifically, that's where we want to stress them and push them to see if they're up for the challenge. And so far, Tack and McKenzie and Kendall, they've been ones that have shown, hey, I know I'm behind here, but I'm willing to put the work in to get right.
With getting that sack yesterday, as you look back on it, what would you put that on? What their protection was, or your combination up front?
Yeah, I would say probably a combination. We didn't get a lot of chances to go. The ball was thrown pretty quickly on some of the ones that we had. But our moments were there too. And so I thought as it went to it, you'd look back and, some of our missed tackles did happen to be on a missed sack in this game. So, we always want to affect the quarterback. That's part of how we want to go get it on as a group. So when you don't have one, you do want to dig in and find out why. And I'd say it's probably a combination in this game on some of the dropbacks of getting it out quickly. And then by the second piece of that, you got to go finish on them.
Dave. When you have a player as good as Micah, we've talked to so much in these last 2 years, when he doesn't make a play, you notice in a game, you start asking, well, what did they do? How did he play? So how does he handle that aspect of it, and how did he perform yesterday?
Yeah, I think it can be challenging for any guy who wants to change the game or make it, and sometimes in a game like that, the game-changing play doesn't happen on a pass play. It happens on a run play. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, maybe there was 35 or 37 runs, something were in that neighborhood. So in this game, they chose to play more, hey, we're going to run play passes that go with that. So I think it frustrates him when you don't make a game-changing play, when that's kind of your calling card to do that. But also at the same time, there's other moments that sometimes come about because of that, because of the extra attention that comes his way. And that was the case certainly last week. They were going to go chip to him, and we blitzed Dono, and then the back is put into a difficult spot. We didn't have those same windows or moments come up yesterday, but they will again, and as we get back into it this week.
Were you cognizant of that, of talking to him during a game, or are you strictly strategically and you just know he'll?
I don't, not a lot, not in game. I don't talk to him a lot. If there's something that I need to visit with him or with one of the other guys, I certainly do. But usually it's more about the play style of how a team wants to play. If it's something different than we thought, and how do we adjust it together. So we've had some teams that have tried to do that this year, and so we're pretty ready to know that as we go into a game, it may not play out like we thought, and we're ready to adjust to go when it happens.
So it was more of them getting the ball out and focusing on the run than Tunsil having a lot of success on
Yeah, and if I had to go back and study how many dropbacks with Laramie there, I don't think he rushed on Laramie on all their dropbacks. So he's certainly an excellent player and their best lineman, but it just wasn't traditional in the same senses where, some of those games that go back and forth and third downs and stuff to go, it wasn't that game yesterday. So, but as far as matchups went, I think we're probably trying to dig for something that may not be there.
Were you sweating it out at all with Curse going
Hell
down?
yeah, I was sweating it out. I didn't even know what you're talking about, and I was sweating it out.
With Curse going down in pregame, you don't know how he's
Yes.
going to last, and then Trayvon gets hurt too. That even just numbers-wise.
Yeah, Hankins, yep.
Yeah.
And so when you have some of those ones to go, the first thing you think about is, okay, what's the contingency plans? And usually the guys will hear me, hey, talk to so-and-so about goal line and talk to so-and-so about this when a movement of people happens, because you just never know when 2 plays later you might be in a package that you weren't thinking of. to how to go and how does it go down. So yeah, I was definitely stressed the most with JK because I was concerned, obviously. I wasn't out in the pregame at that time. I was still in the locker room with the guys, and so when they came to get the trainers to say JK went down, I said, oh shit, you know. So I wanted to find out what happened, and by the time, you know, pregame was over, he came back out to test it, and it just kind of goes to his warrior spirit of who he is and what he stands for. But moments like that, you just go into the contingencies, you know, and what do you do next? Kind of like an emergency plan of this happens, this is where we go. And so that's my training takes over first in that spot. But yeah, when guys go down, I'm concerned, you know, and how we'll play and what the roles is, and not having even Leighton for a couple of days of practice, and not knowing what, you know, he would feel like on game day. But you know, for a guy like him to answer the bell as well, I thought that was really remarkable by him.
What would the contingencies at corner if Trayvon's
Nashon, right.
And then after that, how do you, I mean?
Yeah, then it goes to the next level, and Ukuamu, yep, has been one that's been outside to go. And so when those moments happen, we do that in practice some. So there wouldn't be a player going in to say, I've never done this space. So in those spots, we do work those guys into practice reps, and not just like on a scout team or carded stuff, but in meaningful reps in practice, just in case those moments happen, that they're ready to go. It also, quite honestly, in practice helps us as coaches know if called upon, this player is ready to deliver, because I wouldn't want to put somebody into a situation that they were ill-prepared to do. So if we had to go into those spots, I feel comfortable knowing this is next, this is next, this is next.
Thank you, Dan.
All right, thank you.
All right, you guys have a good one.
Appreciate it.